welcome. We're going to be talking about Zapier and Follow-Up Boss. What a better topic than this right now, because we get a lot of questions on Zapier. And to me, Jeff, the way that Brian Curtis introduced me to you was you're like the king of the Zapier integration with Follow-Up Boss. So let's get right into it. Give us a quick intro as to who you are.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Colorado. I started my real estate career about 12 years ago or so. And I'd say about five years ago, I started a team. And a lot of what I do with these systems were just built out of necessity because I just started seeing holes in my own team.
Okay.
And so I started putting things in place because my knack is in definitely technology and I like it. It's fun for me. So I put these together and they've kind of worked. And then I had a friend about 2 years ago. She's like, man, what you've built here, you should be doing for other people. And so I'm like, man, I should probably do that. There's nobody else doing this right now. So let's give it a try. And so we started and it's helped a lot of good people, man. So.
All right, well, let's take a look at what you've built, man, because I'm curious, because I know there are some things that I'm missing out there. When we were talking earlier on, I'm like, wow, you know, what you're describing here is what our team is missing, right? Yeah. And that's the accountability and automation part. So no leads are left behind, in essence. You said you call it kind of like the conveyor belt, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I use you ever been to a sushi restaurant where the sushi's on a train and you just grab it off the train? It's kind of like that, where leads are just following on a train and you just have to grab it.
I'll take a burger, please, on my conveyor belt.
Yeah, so if you grab it off the shelf, that's like what we've got to go create that conveyor belt for the team leader's sake, because you're spending lots of money and agents don't want all those leads because they're just going to clog up their inbox and their pipelines, right? So you got to have a clean inbox. And so that's like the stage lead. That's the stage buyer A, buyer B, buyer C, you know, banks to pawns, and then agents grab it and put it in their bucket, right? And so that's a lot of what we're doing. And then we're checking the lead, you know, periodically. So a lot of Albert, right? He's got a smart auditing plan that will put a tag on a lead, check it on day 5. And if there's been enough calls or enough text, then it stays there. If not, then you're grabbing the lead and you're throwing it into a different bucket. And that automation is how you're plugging holes for, you know, leads that don't get contacted or called very often, you know, where people are too busy. And that's a lot of what we're putting together, you know, for people.
I like that, man. So let's take a look at the back end of Follow-Up Boss if you have that ready. Yeah. I'd like to see where you typically start. And Heather says sushi on a train conveyor belt does sound pretty risky. Heather, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But so this is my back end of Zapier. And this is just some examples. You can get a little out of control pretty quick back here, right? But the key is, like, this is if you notice these 60-step Zaps, this is that engine, right? And this engine is running leads down this path, right? So you're saying by lead source. So we follow like a standard and a premium lead type, right? So your premiums are going to be your Realtor.com, your Zillows, your sign calls. And once you get...
Jeff, maybe I need to take a step back so that I can ask the right questions. What type of leads are you getting into the system right now that you're using this with?
So it's this Zap here grabs every new contact that hits your Follow-Up Boss, right? And then we filter. So basically you're going to say, I want all of my premium leads to get a call, a text. I want my seller leads to get a cloud CMA, to go into Homebot. This is like your 10,000 foot view of what you want these leads to do. And so here's your premium flow, right? You grab that new contact and then you filter out for like all your protected sources, right? So I'm going to say, I'm not going to push fear into my lead flow. I'm not going to push database into my lead flow. I'm not going to push cold leads or recruiting down my lead flow.
Got it.
Right? And then we do some different Callingly. We use Callingly a lot on my team.
Cool.
And then here's the premium path. So once it hits this, we're saying these sources we're defining as premium.
Got it.
These are our premium lead sources.
And so your premium lead sources are the ones that are going to have actions behind them so that they don't stick inside of a place where none of your agents can touch them.
Yeah. Right? So now we can dictate where we want to go with these leads or other services that we want these leads to get. Right. So if we want a Zillow lead to go into Homebot, or if we want anything to go anywhere, call action campaign to you name it, you could do a lot with this, right? And so the first thing we do is we establish that lead as a premium with a tag, right? And having a good clean tag organization is really going to help you out. Right?
So before we even go into Zapier as agents, we should be looking at our follow-up boss tags and making sure that they're right.
Yeah, and organize them. We put a hashtag in front of ours so that it shows up at the top.
Do you have, and Sarah, good question. He sets it up for himself, by the way. Jeff, if anybody wants to hire you, we'll put your info then in a little bit. But when it comes down to tags, do you have like a sheet that you outline first and then, hey, these are my tags, everybody?
Yep, we do. And we organize it with like a header, right? You're thinking about like lead type, client type. We've got bad as a header, bad name, bad phone, bad source, bad email, right? This is just some organization to how you run your leads, your system. And again, because when you're thinking about scale, you got to have organization in here or it's just going to be haphazard. Right. So it starts.
Dude, I mean, that looks pretty heavy. I mean, it looks like mine, but for those people looking in, those are a lot of tags.
Yeah. Well, but again, when you break it down, you think about tags being a subset of people, right? So you can have client type investor. You can have lead type or people type of dog owners, married, has a family, whatever. Those are your tags, right? And the way I look at follow-up boss too is stage. Stage is a depiction of where they're at in the transaction.
Yep.
Tag is a depiction of who they are as people, right? And then a source is a depiction of just where they came from.
I love that. And then Richard, yeah, those are a lot of tags. 437 tags is a ton. So Jeff, let's break it down a little bit more so that people understand what happens in this process as it's going through and at the end, what that looks like just on this one.
Yep. And so Zapier's got a ton of power, right? And they've got hundreds of apps that you can integrate with. Okay.
Yep.
So we're basically saying, okay, now that we've established this as a premium lead, we're very fortunate with Follow Up Boss having an open API. Yep. And we are now automating that premium lead to go right into the premium pond.
Got it.
And we've got a premium pond in our account, right?
Okay. Can you quickly explain the difference between a regular pond and the premium pond?
Yep. So when you look at your lead types, right, standard versus premium, these again are your Zillow, your Realtor.coms, your standard. It's all about intentionality on the transaction. Your standard lead is further away from the transaction, right? They're not quite ready. And if you call that standard lead right out of the gate, they're kind of mad. Standard, it's all about intentionality.
Hold on. That was just
further away.
I had to mute in. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So, and that premium lead, you got to have a call right away, right? Okay. And most teams, you don't have agents that are, brand new agents that are going to work your premium leads, right? So you separate them and you put them into each bank so that these agents are the ones that can work them.
Got it.
And we're very lucky that we've got the capabilities to basically, automate that lead going right into that pond. Okay. And so without getting too granular on the coding, you can do that here. Okay.
All right, good. Yeah, we don't want to lose anybody on the technical stuff, although people are geeking out already on this. So Jeff, in the meantime, can you please tell me how people can get a hold of you just in case I forget?
Yeah, you can direct message me on Facebook. That's fine. Or just go to jeff@osirs.co.
Okay.
That's my personal email.
Jeff at osiris.co. Is that right?
Yep, you
All
got
right,
it.
just put it in there. All right, let's continue, Jeff, because this is super cool. We've got two questions. What do you think of Homebot? Because I know you mentioned Homebot and
Yep.
automating this process through Zapier. What are your thoughts?
So Homebot's great, man. I mean, I love that they have that capability too. The content that's being sent out to the consumers is phenomenal. It really is. And so the more people that you can get on there, the better. Now, their app on Zapier is pretty new. It's in beta, so not everybody can get in there. But we've automated the process of seller leads because you have to have a zip code, right? You have to have a zip code, and I'll show you a setup that we've got. But if you don't have a zip code, it just won't go into the app. But I will show it to you so you know kind of how to set it up a little bit. And I'm happy to guide anybody through it.
Jeff, I'm thinking now that we started this, by the way, everybody, Jeff and I hadn't talked before this. It's my first time looking at this. Dan Corkle are talking about doing a follow-up boss online mastermind, like in April sometime.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we could dive into this between you, me, Dan, and a few other people, dude. Yeah. And I think maybe even do like a giveaway of what people, at least you do tags, right? And be like, hey, here are the tags you should use, or something that you can simplify for us. But anyway, that's a side note, bro. I'm inviting you to that.
Yeah,
so.
That'd be fun. I mean, again, like we're very lucky and fortunate to have such a system that is open, because I love the fact that we can innovate these workflows and these processes. Because without it, I mean, you're talking about automating an entire lead flow. So that way you can load up, 50, 100 leads a day and not have to be glued to your computer. We live in the day of AI, and you don't necessarily need to be glued to your computer all the time and still do more volume.
That's right, man. Yeah. I agree. All right. So let's go a little bit further into this because now I have questions. All right. So take me through what a regular lead would come in through. Let's say, do you do Facebook lead ads or?
Yeah. Okay. So I use Ylopo and then I use street text.
Take me through the street text one because they don't natively drop into follow-up boss.
Right. That's right. And in fact, I kind of prefer that they don't, because now we can start to use other systems and services to better that lead conversion. Right. And so with street text, this is the new lead that comes in and you see all these steps here. This is called formatter. Okay. And these formatter steps basically change the name and make sure it is going to work with your CRM. Right. Okay. So like if no last name, then change to this. Right. So these are just formatter steps to get the data right.
Okay. So the street text lead comes in. And for those of you who don't know what street text is, it's just a Facebook ad. It's not even a Facebook lead ad.
Right.
Facebook ad, they click, they go through this funnel, they drop their information, and now you get this lead. Sometimes it has no phone number. Sometimes it just has an email. And then Jeff has a system here through Zapier that he created. So he makes sure that all that information drops into follow-up boss. So what happens here towards the end here? How do you create the right system for us to make sure we get this?
Yep. So we early on, the street text leads didn't have a zip code, but now that all of them do, we push it all into basically any of the apps that we want to operate. Right. And so I know like Barry and I have talked about doing Ivy. So if it doesn't have a phone number, you can text it to Ivy and then it gives you all the phone numbers back. How brilliant is that? It's insane.
I mean, did you set that up yet?
Not yet. So that's the secondary flow. That's like version 4. This is version 2.
I'm disappointed, Jeff. I thought you would already be there. It's terrible.
He doesn't have this. Let me show you this.
I'm joking.
This is completely insane. Like, I'm not sure how many of you guys have Cloud CMA, but we can post directly to Cloud CMA.
Okay.
Right. It'll include the address, right? The zip. And then it includes the client ID, okay? And it's going to automatically create a Cloud CMA for this lead. every single time it comes into Follow Up Boss. Okay?
Dude.
Yep. And then here's the issue with Homebot, right? You got to find or create a client, right? So you got to find and create it. This is
Okay.
our
Got
outputs
it.
from the formatter.
Okay.
And then you got to create, obviously the home, and then
Yep.
apply it to that client. But here's the $10,000 tip of the day: is applying it, both those links, right?
Got it.
You get a client link and you get a cloud CMA link. If you apply those to a custom field in Follow Up Boss, right? This cloud CMA link, you can text and you can email in Follow Up Boss as a merge field.
Love that.
Right? So now your text could be delayed 5 minutes. It says, hey, I got a quick CMA for you. It's not quite accurate, but if you want something, that's a little bit more accurate, let me know and I can swing it over. Right?
Dude,
Whatever.
I love this. All right. So we're getting a lot of questions. So I'm going to, first of all, this is being recorded. This is going to go on the Follow Up Boss YouTube channel. We are going to email it out to everybody that registered too. So we're good on that.
Yep.
I want you to show me the information on the Follow Up Boss side, what that looks like, so people can see that information being captured, which you're showing me now. Perfect.
Yep. So these are the custom fields that we use with it, right? And so here's the Cloud CMA PDF link. And again, this link, right? So here are the links on a contact record. Okay, so you've got a live link. This live link is always live. So if I click on this, it's going to right now pull all the comps for that property.
Ooh, that's so good. Now you had to create this custom link first, right? In order for it to even show up here, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, good.
Yep.
Good.
And then you got to apply the Cloud CMA link on the back end.
Perfect. All right. We're losing some people. I mean, they're all here. We haven't lost anybody from the webinar. I mean, we're losing people in the sense that I wanted to show everybody the possibilities of what they could do first. Now, I want you to dumb it down and tell us, if we were just starting off with Zapier and we wanted to choose one thing on Follow Up Boss to connect through Zapier, what do you think that would be?
It's a good question. And a lot of, if you would have asked me this question 6-8 months ago, it'd be a lot more than it is today, because a lot of the automations in Follow Up Boss have taken over the need for Zapier, right? Which is great. It's phenomenal. The only thing you can't do in Follow Up Boss that you can only do in Zapier is transfer the agent automatically. Okay. So if we go down to some of these automatic Zaps, I love the audit day 5, audit day 90, audit day 15.
Which one would you start with and say, hey, this one will be the best one to do, guys?
I would probably go, audit day 5.
All right, let's take a look at that. It looks like it's 7 steps.
Yeah, and it's going to introduce you to an API pretty quickly, and you'll know it from here, right? So this is something you could do in automations in Follow Up Boss, but you can't transfer it, right? So when the tag is added, leave day 5, right?
All right, good. You added a trigger, 7-day, added the tag, good.
Yep. And so now you're going to say, okay, if that's added, don't work on the leads that have the word form in the tags.
Okay.
Don't work on the leads that have recruiting. We're not going to do this to recruiting or to database.
Got it.
Right? Here are all the sources that are protected, right? So you're not doing that with your database or your referrals.
Good.
Right? And then you're going to say, okay.
By the way, Jeff, that's where you lost like half the people, but continue.
I know, but in order to like go through it fairly quickly, right? It's tough, but yeah, you're just making sure that you're not doing this for everybody, right? Because everybody's not equal in your database.
True. And I think for those of you looking in and saying, wow, this is a lot. If you've never looked into Zapier, this is definitely this one is going to look like it's a lot. But if you start with Zapier and you go through their tutorial, you'll understand it's pretty self-explanatory. You just have to take about an hour to dive deep into it. And then you'll understand like, oh, I got it. I understand this, right?
It's all about triggers and actions. So your trigger could be, street text, right? You could have literally any app that you want. A new appointment hops on your calendar, notify me in an email, right?
Got it.
So you can, if you literally go through the apps, you're going to find lots of use cases.
Yep.
And then just start with one-to-one, trigger and action. You'll find the errors, right? And the errors that we found were, oh, I don't want you working my database. I don't want you doing that on my recruiting. I don't want you doing that on these stages, right? This stage filter is saying, okay, only apply this next piece if it's assigned as a lead or if it's
Yep.
assigned as a pond. Okay, so that's the system saying if you're still a lead after day 5, you need to move.
Yep.
Right,
Makes
and
sense.
then we're going to move you. Okay, we're going to move you to the bank, send to bank, right?
Yep.
And this tag could be anything. You could say, dormant, hashtag dormant, right? Nobody, it's still a stage lead after day 5, right? And that's
Yep.
where your smart lists can get really good too, right?
I like that. All right. So if you have any questions for Jeff, I'm putting Jeff's email again there. If you do want to hire him, you can set this all up for you. His company does this as well. He's also a real estate agent, by the way. So, Jeff, if people want to get started with Zapier, where would you recommend they go to? I know YouTube has a whole bunch of tutorials, but
Yeah,
where do you typically go to?
that's where I really started. I didn't know any of this stuff. If you asked me this 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I just kind of learned it out of demand, out of necessity, and YouTube and Google, and really the Explore and the Get Help and Zapier is really, really good. But I like to tell people, start with the end in mind. What's your 20,000 foot view? What's your vision? Like, what do you want to have happen with every lead as a standard lead? And then work your way backwards into the tech, or else you're just going to play shiny object syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And then put that vision together and then work your way backwards. This appointment one is great. These lead alerts, these are awesome because now, I mean, how many times do you respond to a lead alert? And if you had somebody else helping you respond to those, you'd probably make more money. And if you took a day and really figured this out, you're gonna make an extra closing or two, right?
Yeah.
So it's gonna help you out tremendously.
I agree, dude. All right. So we've only got like 4 minutes left on this. So how do you come in and help out if we were to say, hey, let's hire you, Jeff? How does that look?
So a lot of it is a consult to see what you're wanting to do. If you've got a very clear picture of what you want to do, then
Well, that's the thing. Most agents don't. So they're going to come to you and be like, I need your help. Here's my stuff. What do you do?
Yeah. So then we reverse that into, okay, here's your framework, right? And we're going to install on the base your lead gen and your lead flow first, right? So your standard policy and your premium policy. And your premium definition could be anything you want. It could be by price. Anything over $1 million is premium. Anything under is standard, right? So your definitions, and then we set that framework up so that you can bolt on any additional lead sources and not have to worry about setting it up, that much more, right? It's kind of a bolt-on system. And then you've got training materials for your agents. It's consistent, right? It's scalable. And so we're giving you that framework, right? And installing it not just on here, but services like Slack, right? And we believe that, your agent's experience should only have to do with like one system, maybe two, right? And that's kind of where this started. Was I wanted my agent to only have to worry about the stage in the CRM and not have to worry about tags, not have to worry about anything else. They just have to worry about stage, and we'll take care of the rest.
I love that, man. You might get a call from me soon. I'm just telling you, I don't have time to do this stuff. And we use Zapier, but I've never really connected the dots like this with Follow Up Boss. So thank you for showing that to me and to all of us. Again, if we're starting off with Zapier, I just want people to understand you didn't just figure this out overnight. It took you a few years, right?
Yeah. But again, like, just start with a trigger and an action. I want to get my street text into Follow Up Boss. Just do it. Just the action of doing it is going to help you learn how it works. And then you'll see the errors and you can kind of work out the errors. Right.
Perfect, dude. And then Zach says, and you cannot trigger an automation in follow-up boss based solely on contact added. Only trigger is property inquiry. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. That's why, I mean, I've had this flow, this contact added for years, and I've just never changed it.
I love it, dude. Well,
Yeah.
look, Steven pretty much said what everybody is thinking here. He says a lot of information, but good information.
Yeah.
And it opened my eyes. That's honestly, that's why I did this with Jeff. I really wanted to show you what the possibilities are.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't know because we just don't know, right?
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I think if we just apply ourselves, the cool thing is that you and I were saying this before we started. Follow-up boss has so much to it. And I think the key to it is the API integrations. And when we look at this, Zapier, how powerful you can make follow-up boss on top of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's done for you, right? And that way you're not glued to your computer. I'm sorry, I like to take Sundays off and I still want my leads to get what they want, right? You still want that seller lead to get a cloud CMA and automate it, don't you? Like,
Yeah.
You got to install these things. We're so lucky to have these things in our life today.
Dude, I love this. I'm really happy you jumped on. Thank you.
Yeah.
And somebody's asking if there's an M on the .co. It's jeff@osiris.co. Am I correct?
You got it. That's right. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, man. Thank you for being on. I really think if you want to think this through, see what we could do for the follow-up boss thing that we're going to run here in April, because I think a lot of people could be like, ooh, maybe take us through like one setup from scratch, because I think people would love that.
Yeah, and I've got a couple of those that we could do for sure, but I'm happy to help. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm happy to show this and kind of break it down a little bit further if you guys need. No problem.
All right, buddy. Well, hopefully a few people contact you, because a lot of people need this. I need this. So
right, totally, for sure.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.